Kalkalosh Boker Tov, we're going to be continuing today with Daf Kavav Amud Aleph 26a1. We're just going to start though from Kafei Amud Bet on the bottom, just so we get into it. It says over here, Hahi Abarvanka Davele Leresh Keluta V'Ustane. So there was inside of the Pardes, inside of the orchard of the Rosh HaGolah, you had inside of the orchard, you had an Abarvankana, which was like a very big tree, if you remember. So what happened is that they wanted to eat there, to sit down there and to enjoy the food. So Amar le Rav Huna bar Chinana. So he went and the Resh Koluta told Rav Huna bar Chinana, Le'ava martakanta, he says, do something, so way tomorrow we could on Shabbat, we would be able to eat there. So Azalavad, so what did he do? He went and he made kanev pachom mishosha. So he went and he made little reeds close within the 3 tfachim from each other. And therefore, when he did that, he would be able to carry inside of it and be able to eat there. So Azal Rava came, right? Kavav Amud Aleph, 26a1 on the top. Shalfinhu, and he went and he took them out. Why? Because according to him, you didn't have to do anything. You were already able to carry inside of this. So Azal Rav Papa Rav Huna b'der Rav Yoshua. Went Rav Papa and Rav Huna b'der Rav Yoshua, right, which were the Talmidim of Rava. Naktinu mi batre. So they went and they took it from after Rava, right? That means wherever he was storing them, they picked it up, in orders that Rav Huna should not fix it again. Lemachar, the next day, Eitve Ravina l'Rava, Ravina came and he asked from Rava. Okay, so he comes and he asks from Rava, and he says, as follows: Ir Chadasha, when you have a new city, which is surrounded by a wall, okay, if right now the houses do not get until the wall, Modedin la mishivata, so then what you do is you count it from the last house and not from the wall. Okay, so I don't know if we have a picture here. Let me just see if we have a picture. Okay, no, this is afterwards. Okay, fine. So it says over here, what did he used to do? It says like this, okay? He says he used to count from the last city, from the last wall, and not from the walls of the city, right? Then it says, okay, but from the old city, you're going to count it from the wall. You're not going to count it from the last house, but rather from the wall. What is an Ir Chadasha? What is an Ir Yeshana? What's an old city and a new city? So everyone understood what we're doing. We're talking about Tchum Shabbat. Tchum Shabbat is 2,000 amot. So when you start the counting amot, the 2,000 amot, where do you start from? So if it's going to be a new city, you're going to start from the last house. If it's an old city, you're going to start from the wall. Now, many times the wall which is surrounding could be further out from the last house in the city. So therefore, you're going to get more space. So ask the Gemara, what is considered an old city and what is considered a new city? Chadasha, what does it mean a new city? It says, Shukfal Vasof Yashvar. First, you made the kef. First, you made the wall. And then you put the houses inside of them. Yeshana, an old city, means that first you dwelled in a city and then you put a wall around it. Meaning it all depends. Sometimes they made the cities already like that. So for example, sometimes they made a wall around the city, and now they said, build anything that you want in the city. Other times, no, it was a regular city. So you had houses, and then all of a sudden they got together and said, we need protection. So what are we going to do? They made a wall around. So that's called the Yeshana and Ir Chadasha. That's the difference between them. Okay? Vehanami, and this also, this Pardes, Hukfal Vasof Yashvadami, is considered like, right, Hukaf, and then at the end was Nityashev, which means at first you had a wall, and only afterwards you did it. Why? Just like the walls of the city are not Nityaches to the city, so to the Mechitzot, right, which are these walls in the orchard, are not for this Arvanka, not for this tree, right, that was built afterwards. So therefore it comes out of the Pardes that this orchard was not considered Mukaf l'Dira, surrounded, right, in order for the Dira, and therefore you cannot, to permit it to be mitaltel, to permit it to be carrying inside of it. So Amar le Rav Papa le Rava, says Rav Papa to Rava, do you really think that this Arvanka is considered Hekef Lushem Dira, which means that it was surrounded for a house? The Amar Ravasi says, Mechitzot adrechalin, a mechitza made from the banaim, which are the people that are builders. Okay, that means they make mechitzot for tzniut, right? here it says here, that means they do it, okay, nowadays we know that it's also for protection. But in the olden days, they were doing it because it's sniut. What does that mean? They wanted to do the melacha, or they wanted to rest or to eat, and they didn't want everyone to start snooping in on them. So what did they do? The builders, the contractors, what do? They put a fence around. And that's what they do until nowadays. But nowadays it's more for protection, meaning that they don't want, it's like a construction site, so they don't want anybody going in and getting hurt. But in the olden days, technically speaking, here it says, it was for tzniut. Lo shma mechitza, it's not considered a mechitza. Alma, so you see from here, since it's only done from tzniut, lavia mechitza, it's not considered a mechitza. Hachanami, so to here, since it's only made from tzniut, lo lavia mechitza, it's not considered a mechitza. Okay? Ve'amar Ravuna bered v'shul l'Rava. Says Ravuna bered v'shul to Rava. Ve'amar Ravuna, says Ravuna, mechitza asuya lenachat, lo shma mechitza. When you have a mechitza which is put there only in order to watch over, to be shomer, so it's not considered lo shma mechitza. It's not considered a mechitza. Okay, which means it's not there. That means it was only just there. Shish shamru. So that way you should watch the things inside, but it's not that you're actually living there. Because Rabba bar Avua used to put Eruv Chatzerot to all the Ira Mechuzah, right? Shchunot, meaning every shchuna had their own mechitza. Okay, I'll show you in the picture. Look, this is Rabba bar Avua me'arev la lekula mechuzah siyata mishum peira de betore. We're going to see here. According to Rashi, what does this mean? Look over here. Did you realize every single one, they're doing their own, like every shchuna they have. This is pera de betore over here. And they used to make every single one their own eruvei chatzerot. Okay? Every shchuna was by themselves. They wouldn't do it the entire city, but rather every single shchuna would do it by themselves. Why? Because of pera betore. What is this? Mishum pera betore. It says here, there's shuchot amukot lishmunat ma'achal shvarim. It was basically, right, it was, how do you call it? It was for the food of the shvarim. It was for the food of the oxen, okay? So it says, Veha, pere levetore, it says over here, pere betore, he says this is considered, right, a mechitza, which is made for things which are in the inside. So if it's not considered a mechitza to do with an eruv, okay? So therefore, so too with us. The mechitzot around the Avranka was not for the people living inside. It was only just to be shomer on the begadim and the kelim and all the people inside of it, but it's nothing. So that's why he says, if you're not going to fix it, it's going to be asur. So Kari Alai Resh Galuta went and he called on Rav Papa and Rav Huna Yeshua, Chachamim hema lehara uletiv lo yadau, which means, right? That means since Rav Papa and Rav Huna Yeshua, they only remembered on Shabbat to refute the words of Rava, that you do need a fixture for this type of a property. So he went and he said, now only they became Chachamim, to prohibit things. But yesterday, in Erev Shabbat, they didn't remember to prohibit it, and therefore they just made it worse. Understand? That's like, for example, right now, or sometimes they say this about lawyers, right? What are you trying to say? You're trying to say that sometimes you have a possibility to fix things early. But then sometimes you wait, and then when you're already in the mess, now you say, you know what? Now you can't do this. But tell me yesterday when I could have done it instead of waiting for today, then now I can't do it. So that's what he's saying. He's saying the same thing. Over here, right, if it was already Erev Shabbat and they would have refuted Rava, they would have been able to fix it. So that way they could actually carry and eat around their this tree in the orchard. But now that they only remembered on Shabbat to refute him, now that's it. The entire thing is B'rachal Vatala. Doesn't help. Okay? Why? Okay, fine. This is just according to Tosfot, the same picture. Okay? Again, this is where the Shvarim had their food. And there was like the big bridges in between. Fine, next. Okay? Says we learned in the Mishnah, Amar Rabbi Elai, Shamati min Rabbi Eliezer, I heard from Rabbi Eliezer, Vafilu bet kur. Even if it's going to be a bet kur, this karpaf, remember this wood storage, it's called a karpaf, still you're allowed to be metaltel inside of it. Okay? So matzitin de lo kechananya. Our Mishnah is obviously not going to be like Chananya. Why? It says over here, right, as follows. The Tanya was learned to write the Chananya Melech Chananya says, "Vafilu hi 40 seah kisratya shel melech." Even if it's going to be 40 seah, like an armon, like a palace of a king, you're allowed to start traveling inside of it. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, it says Rabbi Yochanan, ushnehem, and both of them, yeah, ushnehem mikra echad dashu. They both learned it from the same pasuk. Shneimar, but it says in the pasuk, "Vahi Yeshayahu lo yitzeh chatzer tichona." Yoshiyahu did not go out to the chatzer tichona, which means to the outside chatzer. Ketiv ha'ir v'karina chatzer. There it's written ha'ir, the city, but we read it chatzer, the courtyard. Okay, so now the difference between Ktiv and Kri is coming to teach you this Istartia of Chizkiyahu Melech that it was so big, it was like a city. Meaning his like palace and everything was so big, it was like a city. Mikan, so we learn from here, it was like a regular city to do with Shabbat. I mean, but still it was like a Chatzer to do with Hilchot Shabbat. I mean, even though it was so huge and humongous, still it was going to be like this halacha. What are we dealing with? Right, what's the machloka between them? Mor Savar, one of them holds Ayarot Benoniyot Havyan, right? Bet Kur, Umor Savar Abayim Seah Havyan. So there's a machloket whether it was Ayarot Benoniyot, whether it was going to be Ayarot Benoniyot, which Ayarot Benoniyot means like middle-sized cities, and the other one says is like a Bet Kur, or is like Arbaim Seah. A Bet Kur is 30 Seah. Ayarot Benoniyot was 40 seah. So that's the machloket over here. The palaces of the kings, were they like 30 seah or 40 seah in size? Okay? Yeshayahu my bayatam. What was Yeshayahu doing there? Right? What did he want in the chatzer, in the back chatzer of the palace of Chizkiyahu? Yeah, well, what? He's going through the backyard. What's he trying to do? Amar Rabbi Yochanan melamed shechalach Chizkiyahu v'alach Yeshayahu leoshiv yeshiva al pitcho. What happened is that Chizkiyahu Melech became sick. So when Chizkiyahu Melech became sick, Yeshayahu, came, and he made like a yeshiva, right? He made a yeshiva right there, right, on the entrance of Chizkiyahu. So he made the yeshiva in order that the Malach HaMavet does not go in there. It's incredible. Imagine a person's sick, what do? Make a yeshiva all around him, the Malach HaMavet can't come. Not bad, no, it's a good idea. I think it's a beautiful segula. Yeah? So that's what they did here. So from here we learn when a Tamil Chacham becomes sick, they put a whole yeshiva on his entrance. But says the Gemara, it's not true. Why? It's not true. Why? You're not supposed to put them there in the entrance of a sick person. Because maybe the Satan will come and he'll start causing them harm. That means it's only Yeshayahu Navi to Chizkiyahu Melech, but not by every single Tamil Chacham in general. And that's what I also heard. Imagine right now also, this is like the next thing that we heard. Okay, but that was the first one. So the first one is that we cannot learn from here that any Tamil Chacham that gets sick, you're supposed to put a yeshiva by his bed. Okay, the next halakha was, what happens if one of the people said they forgot to do it? So what happens? Beto asur, his house is prohibited to bring in and to take out from his house, right? But everyone else is going to be permitted. Says the Gemara, that's now we learned in the Mishnah, Beito asur, leotzi ulachnis, lo velahen. It's prohibited for everybody, which means it's prohibiting our Mishnah, because our Mishnah said that you're allowed to be metaltel from the chatzer to the house, right, for the other people, but not for himself. Here it's written in the Mishnah later on that it's prohibited for everybody, meaning for him or for anybody else. You're not allowed to do it. So Amar Rav Huna bar Yehuda, says Rav Huna bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Sheshat, name of Rav Sheshat, Lakash, that's not a question. Kavav Amubet, Har Rabbi Eliezer ve'Arabanan. One of them, the one of our Mishnah that says you're allowed to be metaltel from the chatzer to the house for the guest, not for himself, that's Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, but the one of the Mishnah later on that says that it's a sur, it's a Rabbanan. They argue on Rabbi Eliezer. So it's two different opinions, so it's not a contradiction. Okay? When you're going to say, according to Rabbi Eliezer, if a person is going to be mevatel the reshut of his friend, So Reshut Beto Bitel. He's going to be Mevatel the Reshut of his house. The Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, Mevatel Reshut Chatzero Reshut Beto Lo Bitel. It was not going to be Mevatel Pshita. It's obvious. So Rachba says, Ana v'Ravuna b'Achinan Tagina Lo Nitzicha. What are we dealing with? Lechamisha sheshuim b'Chatzer Chad. You have 5 people in the same Chatzer. V'Shachach echad mehem v'lo Eruv. One person forgot and didn't do an Eruv. According to Rabbi Eliezer, Kishum Vatel Reshuto, when he makes his Reshut Batel, En tzarich levatel lechol echad ve'echad. He doesn't even vatel for every single one. He's just doing it for one of them, and it's already enough. Meaning, vatel one, his property to one of the people in the chatzer, and that's all. That's all that you need. You don't need anything else. The Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, kishum vatel reshuto, when he's going to be annulling his reshut, tzarich levatel lechol echad ve'echad. He has to annul for every single person. Okay, we're on Kavav Mubet, 26b. Okay, kiman azahad etanya. So it says the Gemara, who does it go like this that we learned in a Braita? But the Braita says, that you have 5 people in one chatzer, one person forgot to do the Eruv, right? When he has to vater reshuto, you know to do it to everybody. Obviously, it's going like Rabbi Eliezer. Come on, like Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? Rav Kahana matnehachi, but Rav Kahana, he taught like this. Rav Tovyumi matnehachi, Rav Tovyumi taught in a different way. He said, Kimana zahadetanya, who does this Braita go like? Where it says when you have 5 people that are in one chatzer, and one of them forgot and they didn't do an eruv. So when he's going to vatel his reshut, when he's going to annul his property to everybody else, you don't have to do it for each one. Keman, who's like going like? Amar Rav Yehuda says, Amar Rav Shesha, like Rav Shesha, like Rav Eliezer. Okay, so Amar le Rav Papa l'Abaye, says Rav Papa to Abaye, the Rav Eliezer, according to Rav Eliezer, I Amar lo mevatlina. Right? If it's according to Rabbi Eliezer, we're talking about what a person says, I don't want to be vatel. What happens now? Or according to the rabbis, if he's going to say, I'm going to be vatel, what's halacha? Which means, is it going to be permitted not to be metaltel, to carry from the house to the chatzer, right? Or not? So says the Gemara, Ta'amad Rabbi Eliezer mishum de kasavar mevatel reshut chatzero reshut betom vitel. Right? The reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer is because he holds that if you're going to be vatel the reshut chatzero, which means your property in the chatzer, reshut beto bitel, you're mevatel also the reshut of your house as well, not only your chatzer, your property, meaning like the front yard and everything, even your house. Behai amad, and now that he's saying it, he's saying I'm not doing it, so therefore he's not going to be vatel, and therefore it's going to be asur letaltel even from his house to the chatzer, even for the friends that they did do the eruv. Or Dilma, or maybe do we say no? Ta'amad Rabbi Eliezer, the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer is mishum de bait below chatzer lo avidin shedayri. Because a house without a chatzer, nobody's going to live in it. Meaning nobody's going to start living in a house without a courtyard. It doesn't make sense. So when he says he's not going to vatel the house, he doesn't have that right. So even though he's going to say I'm going to live in the house without using the chatzer, lav klum kamar, it doesn't say anything because it doesn't exist to live in a house without a chatzer. Meaning you need a front part, you need a yard, you need something. Rabbanan, and according to the rabbis, if he's going to say that I'm going to be vatel the house, what's halacha? Tama, the Rabbanan, the reason Rabbanan is because they say that when you're mevatel your chatzer, you're not mevatel the house. That means you're not annulling the house. And he did say that he is going to vatel the house, so therefore it should be permitted. Or Dilma, or maybe I say no. Tama, the Rabbanan, the reasoning of the rabbis is because and nobody will remove themselves completely from a house from the chatzer. So it's like an oreach. But he doesn't have the power to do so. So Amalei, so he comes and he tells him, Ben Rabbanan, Ben Rabbi Eliezer, whether according to Rabbanan or Rabbi Eliezer, Kevan de Gali date Gali, since he was revealing his mind, he revealed his mind. And then accordingly, it's going to be a surah mutar accordingly. Right? Because he revealed his mind. Okay? Fine. The last halacha, v'chen shamati mimenu, shiyotzim b'kavonim v'kepesach, you're going to be Yetzer Chovah eating maror with this type of a fruit, with this type of a vegetable called arkablin. Maya arkablin, Amresh Lakish, atzvata charuzata, siva mechuraz. Says it's like a type of like a vine that goes around the dekel, it goes around the palm tree. I don't know what the English word is. What does it say in English?
Entwined vines. It's
around a date palm.
Around the trunk.
Okay, around the date palm. Very good. Okay, Adran Alacho Simpasin. So we finished the perek. We're just going to start the next Mishnah, and then anyway, we'll repeat it again tomorrow, but we'll just start it now anyway. Says the Mishnah, Bakol me'arevin. Yeah, with any type of a food, you're allowed to do an eruv. Eruvet tchumin here we're talking about. Remember, eruv tchumin means I'm not allowed to go outside of my 2,000 amot on Shabbat from when the city finishes. However, though, if I wanted to travel to the next city, I could make my tchum in the middle, right? And then I would be able to travel to both cities. Because now my house is not here in this city, my house is going to be in the middle. And then I could travel to two cities. So in any type of a food, you're allowed to do eruvet tchumin. Umishtatfin, or shitufei mevuot. Remember, shitufei mevuot means I'm connecting myself from one mavui to another mavui. A mavui was like the side streets. Except for water and salt, I cannot make, that's not considered food. Ve'akol, and any type of a food, nikach kesef maaser, I could buy kesef maaser in Yerushalayim. We're talking about Masechet Sheni. Remember, Masechet Sheni was in years 1, 2, 4, 5. I come and I take the extra, the second 10%, I redeem it for money, or I could actually take whatever it is and take that to Yerushalayim and eat it inside the walls, or I redeem it for money and I have to add a fifth. Then I go to Yerushalayim and I buy food and then I eat it in Yerushalayim. So that's called Masechet Sheni. So with Masechet Sheni, you can buy any type of a food except for mayim melach. If somebody's going to make a ned that he's not going to eat, he's still allowed to have water and salt because it's not considered food. Okay, you're allowed to make a eruvet tchumin for a nazir with wine, even though he's not allowed to drink the wine. Or for a yisrael with truma, even though obviously a yisrael cannot eat truma, only a kohen. Sumchun says, no, only chulin. Right? A kohen, you're allowed to use a beta pras. Remember, beta pras is a field where they buried someone, but it got lost. So only midrabanan is not allowed to walk in the field because we don't know where it is exactly. Okay? And it was plowed. So therefore, we don't know where it was. Rabbi Yehuda says, afilu ben akvarot, even between the tombstones, because he could make a mechitza and go through it. Which means, since he could make a mechitza in between the tombstones and then he could walk right through between the mechitzot, so he's allowed to come and make, he's allowed to do it there, and he could eat his eruv there. So since he's able to do that, he can make his eruv for something fitting, and therefore it's going to be okay. So Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we continue. We'll start again the Mishnah, and then we'll continue the Kav Zayin tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem.